Hi there, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help.
Please don't help. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everything is good where you are in the world at the moment. If you're going through this whole crazy stuff that's happening all over the world, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I've got a whole bunch of comments I'd like to make on it, but I'll save it for another time. I want to talk about the MPC versus Maschine and Studio One, and just talk about the groove patterns and the way that the groove affects your drums in the outcome of how they sound. I've talked about grooves before, and I've also shared with you guys in the past these different coffee grooves, which I'll share with you again. It's been a few years since I've talked about it, but I want to just go through some of the differences I found with the differences and how groove affects your sound, and Maschine and Studio One, and then the MPC and all those classical kind of gear that used to exist or still does. So let's get into the way that the groove sounds. And first, I want to show you visually what I discovered in these finite details between the 2 or 3 different devices here. And I want to show you kind of what it looks like visually. So let's just have a quick look at the audio. And these are all the audio files that I've either bounced out from Maschine, MPC, or Studio One. I've bounced it in Studio One. But this is just looking at the groove pattern. So for example, I had the exact same sort of structure in the hi-hat. So you've got the hi-hat just like that. And then I've got the same thing in the MPC software. And then I've done the same exact thing inside of Studio One. But the differences that I found are interesting. And if you look at the audio and the way it affects with the swing, so I had this on a setting of 50% swing inside a Maschine. And if you look at, see the difference between the timing with the hi-hat, it's pretty significant, and it does affect the way this hi-hat sounds on those 2 groove patterns that I've got there. And then it kind of lines up the same as majority of the rest of it, does the same thing on the next 2. So Maschine is using a swing pattern. It's different to the way that the MPC is. MPC, I found it's automatically set on a 50. You can't adjust it lower than that I can find anyway. And then it goes up high to 75, and that's kind of where their swing sits. But the way the MPC software works, it's kind of just, I guess, that renowned sound that MPC have. MPC is really well known for having a certain swing to it, and just like that drunk man kind of beat pattern that you get, like Jay Dilla sort of style. But it's just something that I'm curious about, and I want to sort of experiment. And I found that seeing these different, or listening to these different files, it really does set the structure of the drum beat and the way certain things sound. So let's have a listen to all of these. There's about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, let's go with 6 of these, I think. Yeah, we'll go with 6 of these patterns and have a listen to the way just the last hi-hat. Listen to this last hi-hat and see how the swing affects each one of them. I'll play them out to you right now. So I don't know if you guys can tell the difference. If you've been listening to hip hop or R&B, or especially stuff that was created back in the 80s, the 90s, up to the 2000s, especially when the MPCs were really the main, I guess, drum machine that existed back then, before Native Instruments came out with a Maschine kind of thing. These certain sounds, like you can tell. Well, I can hear it. There's the groove pattern that sets. It really does set the way that the drum would sound. Like this is just a hi-hat. I'm not doing the full set of drums, but you can tell just by listening to the hi-hat, the way the groove sounds and the positioning of the groove. It does impact the way that those drums will sound in the end, and then that will obviously impact the entire feel of the beat, the timing of the song, all that sort of stuff. But I want to kind of bring this to your attention because I feel like some of these little finite details, people don't really get into that sort of stuff. They sort of create inside of their chosen DAW, for example, FL Studio or Studio One or Logic or whatever. They choose their DAW, and then they see somebody else using an MPC or whatever, and they're like, oh, that looks cool. Why have they chosen that? Well, there might be certain things that they like in their sound, the positioning of the swing or the groove patterns or the way it samples or the bit depth or all that sort of stuff. These types of things impact the way that people play or listen to their music. And then it impacts the way the feeling of the song is in the end. It just really makes a difference when you're having certain little finite details, negotiating the drum beat and then the way that you'd play the instruments to that drum beat as well. So I kind of think these kinds of things are really cool to be informed about. If you don't know this, or you haven't really studied kind of why certain people use an MPC over a Maschine or vice versa, these things really do play. Just this one thing, this one hi-hat does play a role in how that sound will sound in the end. So inside of Studio One, just as a helping tool, I thought I'd share with you guys, if you haven't already seen my previous video for this, the groove patterns for the MPC 1000, 3000, SPS1, and the SP1200, ASR10. There's a whole bunch of them here. So if you go into the groove section here, well, I should say the cloud section here, you'll see there's a PreSonus Exchange. Inside of that, if you double click, you sign into that. Obviously, you'd have your own sign in. And then you've got these things called grooves here. In this groove tab, if you double click on that, then you can see there's this guy, a few different people in here, but Sun Machine has majority of the grooves. Double click on that, and you can see there's a few of them already set there. But if you want to get all of them, obviously the way that you do that then is just hit the groove, you install it, there's a little thing on install down there. But there's another way to get a whole bunch of them, which I don't know if they're still known or not, but these are the grooves that I found a long time ago. And if you just type in coffee, a whole bunch of these grooves will actually show up. So all of the ones for the MPC 1000, 3000, SPS1, SP1200, ASR10, and a whole bunch there. So if you click on that, you can install a whole lot. It should then show up in your Studio One in this section down the bottom here. And the way that you find it is just by clicking on the Q, and you go across to the right here, and it would have all these grooves available to you to use. So just bearing in mind, you can get certain sounds out of your drum pattern just by manipulating the way the groove sounds and trying to emulate the MPC sound or whatever to give you that sort of feel that you want. And then it creates your own kind of sound, your own groove, and you'll be known for that sort of sound. And that's just the way, I guess, certain people like to, put their own sound out there and have their own groove patterns and stuff like that. So catch you guys on the next one, and peace.